The quiet candle, Keanu Reeves sat alone in a quiet room. The only light came from a single candle placed in the middle of the table. The flame flickered gently as if it was alive, as if it knew it carried more weight than just fire. It was his birthday. But the silence around him was louder than any celebration could be. There were no cheers, no laughter, no friends waiting with cake. Just the soft hum of the evening and the thought of years gone by. He looked at the candle closely. Every birthday before had always been surrounded by people, even if it was strangers or colleagues. This one felt different. Maybe it was the passing of time. Maybe it was the way loneliness sneaks into a man's life when he least expects it. His hand rested on the table, fingers tapping slowly as though he was waiting for something. Deep inside, a quiet question whispered. Was anyone thinking about him tonight? He leaned back in his chair, and memories came rushing. Moments of his childhood when birthdays were simple but joyful. The laughter of his mother, the small gifts he used to treasure, the days when life was not complicated. Then memories of loss, of people he loved, but who were no longer here. The candle in front of him now seemed heavier than 1,000 candles from the past. It carried silence, and silence carried memories. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and finally leaned forward. With one soft breath, he blew out the candle. The flame died, and for a second, the room sank into complete darkness. It felt like the perfect reflection of his heart. Dark but steady, empty but still alive. And then, at that very moment, something unexpected happened. The sound of a door opening broke the silence. His eyes opened wide. He turned his head slowly, and what he saw left him speechless. Standing at the doorway with a gentle smile and a small gift in her hand was Ana de Armas. The soft light from the hallway fell on her face, making her look almost unreal, like a vision born out of hope. Keanu froze. He couldn't find words. It felt impossible, almost like a dream breaking into reality. Ana walked in slowly, her steps calm but full of warmth. "You didn't think I'd let you spend this night alone, did you?" she said in a soft voice. For a moment, Keanu could only stare. His mind was filled with questions. Why was she here? How did she know? But above all, there was a strange comfort, like life itself had chosen to surprise him with kindness. She placed the gift on the table and looked at the candle, still smoking from where he had blown it out. "You always think nobody remembers," she whispered, "but sometimes people are just waiting for the right moment to show you they do." Keanu felt something inside him shift. The loneliness that had pressed on his chest for hours began to fade. He didn't speak yet, but his eyes softened. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was warm, filled with unspoken meaning, and so, the night that started with one candle dying had suddenly been lit by something greater, an unexpected kindness, a reminder that even in quiet rooms, hope can walk through the door. The gift that carried silence. The room was quiet again, but this time it was not the silence of loneliness. It was a silence filled with meaning, like the pause between two important words. Keanu sat across the table, still unsure if what he was seeing was real. Ana de Armas had walked in with a smile, breaking the night wide open. She gently slid the small gift across the table toward him. The box was wrapped in plain paper, nothing loud, nothing shiny. It was simple, but it carried weight. He stared at it, his fingers brushing the surface without opening it. His heart beat faster, but not from surprise alone. It was something else. Something he had not felt in a long time. "Aren't you going to open it?" Ana asked softly. Her voice had warmth, but also a kind of curiosity, as though she wanted to see not just what he found in the box, but how he reacted. Keanu took a deep breath. "Sometimes," he said slowly. A gift feels heavier before it's opened. It carries every thought, every intention of the one who gave it. Anna tilted her head slightly, her eyes locked on his. Then maybe it's not just a gift. Maybe it's something more. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The box remained untouched between them, and yet it was the center of everything. It wasn't about what was inside. It was about what it represented. Presence, kindness, the reminder that he was not forgotten. Keanu finally unwrapped the box. His hands moved carefully, as though opening it too fast might break the moment. Inside was a simple notebook, leather-bound, with a single pen placed across it. No gold, no jewels, no noise. Just blank pages waiting for words. He looked up, puzzled. Anna smiled gently. I know you carry so many thoughts inside you. Memories, pain, kindness, wisdom. But sometimes you let it stay silent. I thought maybe, if you write it down, the silence will feel lighter. The words struck deep. Keanu had always been the quiet type, someone who carried more than he shared. The notebook was not just a gift. It was a mirror, reminding him of the weight he had, kept hidden for years. He touched the pages with his fingers. They were empty, but they didn't feel empty. They felt alive, waiting to carry something that mattered. You think writing will change anything? He asked, his voice low. Anna leaned forward. I think it's not about changing. It's about releasing. Sometimes we hold too much, and it breaks us quietly. Writing doesn't erase the pain, but it teaches the heart to breathe again. Her words hit like truth he had known but never admitted. Keanu sat still, the notebook in his hand, his eyes heavy with memory. He thought of the people he had lost, the roles he had played, the kindnesses he had given that no one noticed, and the loneliness that had grown inside him like a quiet shadow. The candle he had blown out earlier now seemed like a symbol of all those years. Flickering, alive for a while, then fading. But the notebook was different. It promised continuity, something lasting, something that would not die with one breath. Keanu finally spoke again. You didn't come here just to give me this. Anna's eyes softened. No, I came because I knew you needed someone to remind you you're not invisible. The world sees your kindness, but sometimes you forget to see it yourself. Her words carried no pity, only respect. That difference mattered. Pity breaks a man, but respect rebuilds him. Keanu leaned back, exhaling deeply. You know, it's strange. I've given so much in silence. Never thought someone would bring silence back to me as a gift. Anna smiled faintly. Silence isn't always emptiness. Sometimes it's where we hear the truth the loudest. And just like that, the night began to shift. What had started with a lonely candle was now shaping into something larger, an exchange not of objects, but of meaning. But deep inside, Keanu felt a storm rising. Kindness often unlocks memories that have been buried for too long. He knew that. If he touched those memories, he might find pain, and with pain comes conflict. The notebook lay open before him, blank and waiting. But in his heart, pages were already turning. The page that refused to stay empty. The clock on the wall ticked softly, each second sounding louder than the last. The notebook lay open on the table, its blank pages shining faintly under the dim light. It seemed to stare back at Keanu, almost daring him to write. The gift was simple, yet it carried the weight of years he had locked away. Anna watched him quietly. She didn't rush him, didn't ask him to speak. She only sat there, present, like a steady flame that refused to fade. But the silence in the room had changed. It was no longer gentle, it was sharp, like a question waiting for an answer. Keanu finally picked up the pen. His fingers trembled slightly. He had faced cameras, critics, storms of fame, and the loneliness of nights when no one remembered his heart. Yet here, with one empty page in front of him, he felt more vulnerable than ever. He placed the tip of the pen against the page. For a moment, nothing happened. His hand froze. Then slowly, shakily, he wrote a single word. Why? Anna leaned forward, her eyes soft but curious. Why what? She asked gently. Keanu didn't look up. Why does kindness feel heavier than pain? Sometimes? His voice was low, almost breaking. He wrote more. Not neat sentences, just words spilling out. Loss. Silence. Weight. Forgotten. Invisible. Why? Anna's eyes filled with quiet sadness as she watched. But she didn't interrupt. She knew this wasn't about her. It was about him facing the storm inside. When he finally dropped the pen, he closed the notebook quickly, as if he had written something forbidden. His breath was heavy, his eyes distant. Sometimes I think, he whispered, that I've lived my whole life giving away pieces of myself, but I never kept anything for me. People see me smile, they see me kind, but they don't know what it costs. Every kindness takes something from me, and I wonder if one day there will be nothing left. Anna's heart ached at his words. She reached across the table, her hand resting gently on his. You think kindness makes you smaller, but the truth is it makes you larger. The world remembers your silence because you filled it with meaning. It doesn't erase you, Keanu. It multiplies you. Her words hung in the air like a fragile thread of light. But before he could respond, the sound of rain began to tap against the window. Soft at first, then harder, until the storm outside seemed to echo the storm inside him. Lightning flashed across the sky, and the room was briefly lit in silver. Keanu stood and walked toward the window. He stared at the rain, his reflection staring back at him in the glass. Every storm reminds me of the ones I've survived, he said quietly. But also of the ones that nearly broke me. Anna joined him at the window. Maybe storms don't come to break us. Maybe they come to clean the air we breathe. He turned to her slowly, his eyes filled with both pain and gratitude. You always find words that sound like light. But what happens when the storm isn't outside? What happens when it's in here? He tapped his chest lightly. Anna held his gaze. Then you don't face it alone. You let someone stand beside you. Her words shook him. He had spent years believing that standing alone was strength. But here she was, reminding him that strength was also in allowing someone else to share the weight. Suddenly, the notebook on the table fell to the floor. The pages fluttered open in the wind that had slipped in through the window. One page landed, face up, and there, among the scattered words, was one sentence he hadn't realized he wrote. I am afraid of being forgotten. The words struck like a hidden truth pulled into the light. Anna bent down, picked up the notebook, and looked at him carefully. You fear being forgotten, she said softly. But how can the world forget a man who never forgot to be human? Keanu's chest tightened. For years, he had buried that fear, hiding it behind silence, behind kindness, behind humility. But now it stood naked in front of him, undeniable. The rain outside grew heavier, but inside the room, something lighter began to form. It wasn't resolution, not yet, but it was the beginning of one. He sat back down, opened the notebook again, and this time, instead of single words, he wrote a sentence with steady hands. Every kindness is a seed. Maybe I have not been forgotten. Maybe I have just not seen the garden yet. Anna smiled, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Now you're not writing silence anymore. You're writing hope. The storm outside raged on, but for the first time in a long time, Keanu felt like the storm inside him had found a listener, and maybe, just maybe, a way forward. The knock that changed everything. The storm outside finally began to calm, but the silence it left behind was not gentle. It was heavy, like the room was holding its breath. Keanu sat with the notebook open before him, the ink of his last sentence still fresh. Every kindness is a seed. The words glowed faintly under the soft light, as if they carried a quiet power. Ana watched him with calm eyes, but her heart knew something was building. Sometimes peace is only a pause before the next storm. And then, it happened. A sudden knock on the door. Sharp, urgent. It cut through the room like thunder. Keanu froze. His hand, still holding the pen, trembled slightly. No one ever came uninvited. Not here, not on this night. The knock came again, harder this time. Anna's eyes widened. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. Keanu shook his head slowly. "No, one knows I'm here." The third knock came, louder, almost impatient. It was not the knock of a friend. It was the knock of someone carrying weight. Keanu stood and walked to the door. Each step felt heavy, like walking into the unknown. Anna stayed seated, but her gaze followed him closely. Alert. He opened the door, slowly, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Standing there, soaked in rain, was a man from his past. His face was lined with years of hardship, his eyes sharp, almost desperate. "You don't remember me, do you?" the man said, his voice rough but steady. Keanu blinked, trying to place him, and then the memory struck like lightning. This was someone from years ago, someone he had helped quietly, someone who had once been a shadow on the edge of his kindness. The man stepped inside without waiting for permission. Water dripped from his coat onto the floor. "I never forgot what you did for me," he said. "But tonight, I couldn't stay silent anymore." Anna stood slowly, her body tense. She didn't know who he was, but she felt the weight in his words. Keanu's voice was calm, though his heart raced. "What do you want?" The man looked at him with a mix of gratitude and pain. "To tell you the truth, the kindness you gave me, it saved me, but it also cursed me." The words hung in the air like a blade. Keanu frowned. "What do you mean?" The man's eyes darkened. "You gave me help when no one else would. You pulled me out of the gutter, gave me a chance to live again. But I built my life on that gift, and now every failure feels like it betrays you. Every mistake I make feels like I'm destroying what you gave me. Do you understand what it means to live under the weight of someone else's kindness?" Anna gasped softly. This was a twist she hadn't expected, kindness as both salvation and burden. Keanu stared at the man, his heart torn. He had always believed kindness healed, but here stood a man broken by the very gift meant to lift him. "You think you owe me your life," Keanu said quietly, "but you don't. I gave you kindness because that is what the world owed you, not because you had to pay me back." The man shook his head violently. "No, you don't get it. Your kindness is like a shadow over me. People see me, but they say, 'He only survived because Keanu Reeves helped him.' I'm tired of living under your name. I came here tonight to face you, because until I do, I'll never be free." The room fell into silence. Anna's eyes moved between the two men, her heart racing. This wasn't just about the past. This was about what kindness costs both the giver and the receiver. Keanu finally spoke, his voice deep, steady. "Then hear me now. You don't live under my shadow. You live under your own light. My kindness was just a match. It was you who kept the fire alive. Stop chaining yourself to me. You are not my burden, and I am not your master." The man's eyes filled with tears. For years, he had carried the weight of gratitude twisted into shame. Now, with these words, Something inside him cracked. He sank into a chair, his shoulders shaking. I wanted to hate you for what you gave. Me. But I couldn't. And I wanted to love you for it. But it felt too heavy. I didn't know how to carry it. Anna stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. Maybe you were never meant to carry it alone. Maybe kindness is not a chain. It's a bridge. And tonight, you crossed it by coming here. The man lifted his head, his tears shining in the dim light. Keanu looked at him, not with pity, but with respect. Then let this be the night you walk free, he said. The storm outside had calmed, but inside, a different storm was beginning to ease. The man's burden was not gone, but for the first time, it was shared. Keanu sat back down at the table, the notebook still open. He wrote another sentence with steady hands. Sometimes kindness feels like a chain, but it was always meant to be wings. Anna read the words and smiled faintly. The man looked at the page and whispered, "Maybe this is what I needed all along." The night that had begun with a lonely candle was now carrying voices of truth, pain, and healing. But somewhere deep inside, Keanu knew the story was far from over. Because kindness, once given, always comes back in unexpected ways, and sometimes it brings storms with it. The shadow behind kindness. The man sat quietly, his wet coat dripping onto the floor, but the silence he carried was heavier than the storm outside. Keanu and Anna watched him closely, waiting for his next words. It felt as if the room itself was holding a secret, pressing against the walls, waiting to be revealed. Keanu broke the silence first. "You said you came to face me. You've spoken your burden. But why do I feel like you're still hiding something?" The man's eyes lowered and his jaw tightened. His silence was not emptiness. It was resistance. Anna leaned forward, her voice calm but sharp. "What is it you're not saying?" The man finally looked up. His eyes burned with something darker than gratitude, something heavier than guilt. "Because there's more. Your kindness didn't just save me. It destroyed someone else." The words cut through the room like a blade. Keanu's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" The man's voice shook, but he forced the truth out. "Years ago, when you gave me a chance, you didn't know there was someone else standing behind me. Someone who needed it just as much, maybe more. But because I got your hand, he got left behind. And he never forgave me. He never forgave you." Keanu's chest tightened. He had always believed his kindness brought light, but now he was being told it also created shadows. "Who was he?" Keanu asked. The man's lips pressed into a hard line. "Someone who walked down a darker path because he thought you chose me over him. He lost everything. And now—" The man hesitated, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Now he blames you." Anna's eyes widened. "Blames Keanu? For saving you?" The man nodded slowly. "He says your kindness is just another form of cruelty. He says you choose who deserves to be saved, and in that choice you condemn others." The air in the room grew heavy, thick with unease. Keanu sat back, the weight of those words pressing on his shoulders. He had never thought of kindness as a weapon, but now it sounded like it had been twisted into one. He whispered almost to himself, "I gave what I could, but maybe to him, it looked like I took away." The man's voice trembled. "He has been looking for you, Keanu, and if he finds you, I don't know what he'll do." The candle on the table flickered, as if the flame itself had felt the shadow pressing closer. Anna placed her hand on Keanu's arm, her eyes steady. "This isn't your fault. You didn't choose who deserved kindness. You gave what you had. You can't control how the world twists it." But Keanu's heart was restless. He turned to the notebook, his pen trembling in his hand. He wrote quickly, his words pouring out like storm water. "Sometimes kindness saves one life and shatters another. Is it still kindness, then? Or is it a quiet cruelty hiding under a gentle mask?" He dropped the pen and closed his eyes. The room was too small now, too filled with memories and regrets. The man leaned forward, his voice urgent. He knows where you are. I came tonight not just to face you, but to warn you. His anger is not small. It's a fire he's been feeding for years. And when he comes, he will not come for forgiveness. Anna's breath caught. He's coming here. The man nodded. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon. The words echoed in the room, each syllable leaving a trace of fear. Keanu opened his eyes slowly. Instead of fear, there was a strange calm in them. Then let him come. If kindness can wound as much as it heals, I need to face that truth. I need to face him. Anna's eyes filled with worry. Keanu? This isn't just about truth. This could be dangerous. He looked at her, his voice steady but heavy. I have lived too long giving silently. Maybe it's time to listen to the voices my silence created. The storm outside had faded, leaving the world quiet. But inside, another storm was gathering. One not of rain or thunder, but of past choices, twisted memories, and the shadow of a man who believed kindness had betrayed him. Anna touched the notebook gently, her fingers brushing the edge. Then write everything down, Keanu. If the storm comes, let these pages hold what you cannot say. Let them carry the truth when words fail. Keanu nodded slowly. He opened the notebook again and wrote one more line. Every shadow is born because light was present. If I am blamed for the shadow, then at least it means I once carried the light. The man looked at the sentence and whispered, He will not see it that way. Keanu's eyes hardened. Then I will show him, not with anger, not with pride, but with the same thing he believes destroyed him, kindness. And if it breaks me, then let it break me. Better broken by kindness than whole by cruelty. Anna's hand tightened around his, her voice soft but unshaken. Then we'll face him together. The night grew still. The flame of the candle danced. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the walls, another story was already moving closer. A story of betrayal, anger, and the test of whether kindness could survive when confronted with hate. The face in the doorway, the night stretched on, heavy with the promise of something unseen. The man who had confessed his burden sat quietly, but his words still echoed in the room. He blames you, Keanu. He is coming. The candle flickered once, then steadied again, as though it too was preparing for what lay ahead. Anna sat close to Keanu, her hand resting lightly on the notebook. The pages were now filled with scattered words, questions, fears, and fragile hopes. The notebook was more than a gift. It was a mirror of his soul. And then, just as the quiet seemed to settle, another sound cut through the night. A knock. Not hurried, not polite. It was slow, deliberate, 3 times. Each knock carried a weight that made the air colder. Keanu's chest tightened. Anna's breath caught. The man's face turned pale. It's him, the man whispered. Keanu stood slowly, his legs steady though his heart beat hard inside his chest. He walked to the door, every step heavy like iron. The knock came again, louder. Anna rose to her feet. Keanu, you don't have to open it, she said, her voice trembling but firm. He looked back at her, his eyes calm yet resolute. I do. Shadows only grow darker when we keep the door closed. He placed his hand on the doorknob, hesitated for a moment, and then pulled it open. Standing in the doorway was a man drenched in the night, his face sharp, his eyes burning with a fire that looked years old. He was not trembling. He was not broken. He was steady, controlled, but filled with anger. His voice was cold. So, it's true. Keanu Reeves hides here, writing in silence while the rest of us live in the ruins his kindness left behind. Anna stepped forward, her voice protective. Don't speak to him like that. The man's gaze flickered to her, but he quickly turned back to Keanu. "Do you even know me?" Keanu studied his face. Pieces of memory stirred. He saw a younger man, one who had once stood in a line of desperation, eyes hollow, waiting for help that never came. And then he remembered. He had walked past this man once, choosing instead to help the one who had knocked earlier tonight. "I remember," Keanu whispered. The man's jaw tightened. "You gave him life. You left me in darkness. Do you know what that felt like? Do you know what I became because of you?" Keanu's voice was quiet, steady. "Tell me." The man stepped inside, his boots heavy on the floor. "I begged for light. I begged for a chance. You gave it to him, and I was left to rot. I lost everything. My family, my pride, my will. Every day I watched him live while I drowned. And everyone said the same thing. Keanu Reeves saved him. Do you understand what it means to live as the man not chosen?" Anna's heart ached at his words, but Keanu's eyes did not flinch. "I never chose who deserved it more," Keanu said softly. "I only gave what I could in the moment. I did not know you carried the same weight." The man's voice rose, sharp with pain. "That's the cruelty of kindness. You think it heals, but it divides. You made me invisible, and for years, I have hated you for it." The room grew silent again. The man who had first arrived lowered his head, his own guilt heavier now. Anna's hand tightened on the notebook, as though the words inside could shield them. Keanu finally stepped closer. His voice was low, almost breaking. "You think I am the reason you fell, but the truth is, it was never me. It was the world that failed you. I was only one man with two hands, and I could not reach everyone. I gave what I had, but I see now, my silence left wounds too." The angry man's eyes glistened, though his rage fought against it. "So what do you want me to do? Forgive you?" Keanu shook his head gently. "No, I don't ask for forgiveness. I ask for this. Let tonight be the night you put down the weight. You've carried anger like chains, and it has burned you more than it ever burned me. If you cannot forgive me, then at least forgive yourself. Let yourself live again." The man trembled, his fists tightening, his teeth clenched. He wanted to shout, to curse, to strike. But Keanu did not move back. He only stood there, steady, offering nothing but presence and quiet respect. Anna finally spoke, her voice calm but piercing. "You came here because part of you still wanted to be seen. You wanted him to know your pain. Well, now he knows. Don't let the rest of your life be built on hate. Don't let one moment of the past decide every moment of the future." The man's breath shook, his shoulders lowered. Years of anger seemed to crumble all at once, leaving behind only exhaustion. Tears broke from his eyes. He whispered, "I just wanted someone to see me." Keanu stepped forward, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "I see you now, and maybe I should have seen you then, but tonight you are not invisible." The man's body shook as he let the weight fall. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry. The three of them sat in silence. No anger, no hate. Just a fragile peace born from truth, finally spoken. Keanu opened the notebook one last time. With steady hands, he wrote, "Kindness is not choosing who deserves light. It is carrying light into darkness, even if the world thinks it is too late." He closed the notebook, his eyes lifting toward the two men, toward Anna, toward the candle still burning faintly. The night that had begun with one lonely flame had ended, with something greater. Not a candle, not a gift, not even words, but the reminder that even broken kindness can heal if it dares to face the shadow it creates. Keanu whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else. sometimes the greatest. Kindness is not what we give, but what we stay to face. Anna touched his hand gently, her eyes filled with pride and quiet love. The two men who had carried such heavy burdens now sat lighter, their chains broken, their voices heard. Outside, the storm was gone. The first light of dawn began to touch the horizon, and in that fragile light, Keanu realized something he had never said before. He was not forgotten. He was not invisible. He was human, and so were they. And in that shared truth, there was peace.